Hello, everybody. This is Sky. I have a lot of information to share with you today, and I hope I remember it all because I asked my star people a lot of questions. I received a lot of answers, and I want to share them with you. So, first of all, a little energy update. Things are happening faster and faster, and I think that we all notice that time is passing super fast and there's so much happening in the world. And my star people have told me, it's happening faster than they even expected. And so I want to comment on our role in some of the horrible things that have happened in the world lately and the shift. So, first of all, I want to invite all of you to bring your awareness to the fact that everything is vibration. We are vibration. The outside world is vibration. It's all energy. And that means, it's very important now to remember our role as creator beings in this world. Because when things happen in the outside, such horrible scenarios that unfold, like with the earthquakes, for example, what happens is that we look at these scenarios and we are horrified and shocked and sad, and our vibrations are going down. And in the moment that our vibrations are going down, we are kind of being tricked into creating more of these things that we witness. And everything that exists in the outside was, or in the material world, was energy before it came into existence. And the energy is generated through us as creator beings into the material world. So everything that we see in the material world is something that has been generated through our energy. And as soon as it's out in the material world, it has an influence back on us. And then we think that we are victims to the outside circumstances that in fact we have created with what was inside of us. The more that somebody is hooked up and directly connected or tuned into the pure force of life, which I call the divine, which is the healing, harmonizing principle that we have come to gravely misunderstand, in our current conception of God that is oftentimes very influenced by religious institutions. The more we are directly connected to that life force and tuned into this life force, the stronger the influence in the outside on the outside circumstances becomes. So that means that rather than these so-called outside circumstances influencing us, we are influencing these outside circumstances if we are connected to this divine force, this divine principle. And that is ultimately something that we choose. So if we place our focus on these horrible circumstances in the outside, and these horrible conditions in the outside, that means that we create more of them because we give them attention, we give them focus, and our energies sink in return. And my star people told me, if you want something to disappear from your life, stop giving it attention. That doesn't mean that we should not understand what has created this, and we should be ignorant to the fact that there are global players, you know, advancing these kind of scenarios. But as soon as our energies are being kidnapped in this whole process, meaning they become low and they sink, that's when we create more of it instead of changing the course. And we change the course by focusing on something beautiful and something that makes us happy, on love, and working with ourselves to clear old structures that attract these kind of things. And whatever kind of energy that we have inside is what we emit, and that creates something of its kind. So if we have, darkness inside of us, it creates darkness outside of us. If we have light inside of us, it creates light outside of us. And there's a direct interaction and correlation between what's outside and what's inside. And we are the medium, so to speak. So I hope I explained that well. Because the darkness has a lot of very smart mechanisms that kidnap our energy and trick it into serving its goals, The same thing happens with something called implants. I asked my star people, what are implants? And I received the answer that implants are hardened thought structures, or ethereal structures that are placed inside of a person that can be placed there when the person receiving the implant has holes in their aura or has a resonance to that kind of implant. So that means that when the person has a recurring thought pattern, that becomes hard and also makes room or attracts this kind of implant. And the way that this implant comes into a person, also asked my star people, is there an operation taking place, or what? How does that happen? And they told me, no, it's a technology from the darkness that sends these things out, and then they land inside of, or they are let in by a person, and co-created. So these implants are always co-created, they told me, by the person receiving it. But the darkness has a lot of ways to trick a person into co-creation of these kind of implants. And the way that these implants leave the person is that when the own energy, the own vibration of the person rises so much that the implants pop and dissolve, like under high pressure, They can be taken out, yes, by somebody else who's assisting, but if the vibration of this person isn't high enough, then they're likely to come back, or a problem might occur on another part of their energy system. Yeah, they also told me that the forces of the darkness are a lot more centralized. So while in the higher realms we have protective entities by our side, like guardian angels, or guides and things like that, or like people at our side. In the darkness, it's much more centralized, they say. It's not like there are particular people responsible for that person. There's a lot more centralized. Yeah. So another thing that they explained to me was the kidnapping of souls. They said to me that a soul might be drawn outside of its body through shock or trauma, and then they're held hostage in an in-between realm where they cannot go up and they cannot go down. And all the while, the body that the soul was inhabited by before is taken over by a dark entity. And the body is still connected to the soul, but it's not inside of it. It's in this in-between realm. And the souls themselves have to muster up the courage to get away from that in-between realm, because they are not held prisoners. They can always leave. They're free to leave. But they have to muster up the courage to do that. And as long as they do not have the courage, they stay there. And usually what happens when a soul is drawn out of its body, it has a lot of fear. And they told me that when this soul eventually musters up the courage to go away from that in-between realm, then this is a great learning experience for the soul. And they will never stay there forever, because darkness is always finite. So the soul that is held hostage, so to speak, in this in-between realm, will always eventually get out of that realm. But in the meantime, it can be taken over by another entity. And it was explained, this whole process, because I looked at a particular pop singer. It's currently in the charts, whose eyes are just so empty, and I looked at that person. I thought, my God, what is inside of that person? And then following a hunch, I was looking for a photo of that person when he was little, because I thought something happened to the soul. What happened to the soul? And I found a photo of this pop singer. I'm not going to name any names, but I found a photo of that pop singer when he was a toddler. And the eyes were completely different. They were so light, but they also showed a lot of fear. And that's what they said. My side people said, if the soul has a lot of fear, it's easy for the soul to leave the body in shock or trauma. And it apparently happened pretty early with this pop singer, because I found other pictures of him as a child, and already with a few years the eyes had really changed. Yeah, And something else that they told me about was information systems. And also stresses the roles that we have as creators and the systems that inform us, because they told me that at first, when we receive information from a particular kind of system, you know, I don't know, from by TV or our education, or you know, higher education, school education, um, radio, whatever kind of system that is, in the beginning, it is received through words, through um, images, through you know, audio, and teachings and things like that. And the more we expose ourselves to these information systems, the more they kind of seep through, like in an osmotic process, like they are being absorbed by us, these information systems, and they don't really need words anymore. They just kind of like enter us, like you know, through a very thin membrane. And there is also an interaction taking place between us and these information systems. So that means that we even we shape the information systems that we consume. We are not just you know, consumers or yeah, consumers of these information systems, but we also shape them with our own energy. So I thought that was very interesting, considering the fact that you know, we are really much more than we have come to believe we are. And understanding the role that we have in this whole thing that is unfolding in this planet right now. Another thing that I wanted to touch upon was background people, so-called background people, because that's another question that I had. There was lately information or a topic being taken up a couple of times, which is called the background people, and it was started, I believe, by something that was said by Dolores Cannon at some point, where she said something like the a large part of the people that make up our world are not actually real, but they're kind of like a hologram, or they're just empty stage props, so to speak, to serve to the scenario of our experience in this world. And that seems to be have been taken over by some people who say that, oh yeah, well, you know, we know that a large part of the people in this world are just kind of stage props. And so I asked my star people about it, and they said the way that we need to imagine this is like when you know, we have this geometrical formations that when two circles overlap, there is a shared area of the two circles that is part of one circle and part of the other also. You know, that shared area is our experience of reality. That's our world, kind of. And the part of the circle that's outside of this shared area can be called, you know, the background people. So things and people that are directly part of our own experience and our own world, our immediate own experience, which is the shared area, is kind of like the real, and the rest is the so-called backdrop or background people. That does not mean that these people do not exist. That just means that they are not part of our immediate experience. And the more that my love goes out to all these people in the world, even if they're not directly part of my experience, meaning that I don't have an interaction with them, or I don't personally see them, but if or know them, the more that my love goes out into the world, the wider that shared area becomes, and the less background people, so to speak, there are, in my experience. Where the most, yeah, the less background people there are, in the way that they are described, you know. And I thought that was important to mention because it may give rise to a very a, a, a principle that can easily be misunderstood by people thinking, well, you know, a large part of the world that I live in is just fake. And empty, and it doesn't matter, you know. Yeah, and then let me see if I covered everything. Yeah. The deities. So, kidnapping. Yeah, the deities. So, I also got some information about gods and deities, so-called gods and deities. So, gods and deities in our own, in our education, has been something that people bow down to, that they worship. And so they explained to me that so-called gods and deities, what they actually are is the individual that appears as that god or deity has yielded so much to the divine life force that we all exist from or of, that the individual has mostly disappeared, and just this divine life force is acting through them in kind of an individualized form. So that means that the personality, or the individual that has become very, very small, and the divine life force is there to nourish, to heal, to serve. And the more divine life force comes through a person, the more a person wants to serve, because that's what the life force wants to do. That's what it's here to do. And so this individual is not going to want to appear great or amass things for themselves, or direct attention to their own person, because the person actually became very small and is just giving way to this divine life force. So it's not about the person anymore at all. And we have come to understand gods and deities as something, you know, that is akin to queens or kings in the material world, in our material realm. And so that's not actually correct. And it also might help to distinguish, you know, the real deal from preposterous. Because there are a lot of people out there who direct a lot of attention to themselves as a person, to appear somehow, you know, and say, oh, you know, I'm the this and that. but people who are really letting this divine life force through are not going to do that, because the individual person has become so small. And it's about service only. Yeah. The last thing I want to mention is the UFO thing that's currently in the media. So I think most everybody has come to realize, or at least that's what I've seen so far, a lot of people have come to realize that this is kind of a show. I asked my star people about that also. Um, and of course, you know, the UFOs are out there, but it's not people. It's not the things that are being discussed in the media that are being shut down and things like that. That's all kind of a, yeah. That's not UFOs. And I asked my star people why is that being done? You know, why do they um, put this on stage, so to speak? And they said, you know, the dark forces are losing ground, so they're just putting everything out, everything that they have. It's completely uncoordinated and a little bit panicked. Yeah, they're driving everything up that they possibly can kind of come up with. Yeah, so don't be misled. I just thought I'd add that because the more people who that are sharing this, the less there's people that are being misled out there, that are being tricked into this new narrative. I don't know, whatever that's going to lead us, but yeah, or wanting to lead us. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Wishing you a beautiful rest of the day. And go into nature, become still, make sure that you're well, do things that you love, place your attention to something beautiful, meditate. It's so important because we are the ones affecting the change. It's happening no matter what, but our decision right now, our focus, determines our orientation. It determines our own destination, and we take so many people with us. Because every individual has an influence on a lot of others. And the more divine life force we let through, the bigger this influence becomes. This is what I want to leave you with today, and wishing you, yeah, peace in the heart and joy. See you soon. Bye.